again, man, thanks so much for doing this. Again, I'm not even really sure. I know that Paul said that you were keen to do this to help out the school, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm the outreach director. I don't know if he told you about that, but I basically run all the programs that we had going in schools with kids. Also do like a lot of our events. I actually remember I didn't like we met briefly at the Haight Street Art Center when Steve Earl was there.
Uh-huh.
And it was funny. I was around the corner parking the van, and I go to get out of the van, and I see this really beautiful, sleek Tesla pull up, and it's like got all the the tinted windows, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, that's a really nice looking car. And then the door opens up, and I see this Birkenstock come out in the ground, and then, lo and behold, it was you. Um, but I guess that's kind of a neat little segue to talk about that. You seem to really enjoy that experience playing with Steve. I mean, he was such a cool guy and had a great rapport with the audience that night.
Steve is, he's. I can't think of anybody else. I'd say he's one of a kind, and I gotta stick with that. I can't think of anybody else who's anything like him. Um, he can tend to go on a bit, but then so can my friend Ramblin Jack up there
That's
in
probably why they call him Ramblin'.
yeah. And the fact is, I could, if you want, I could tell you the story about the night I met him,
I'd
Ramblin
love to
Jack.
hear that. Yeah, man, that's what this is all about. We're just chitting and chatting.
Well, okay, so I'm working on a book, and I'm going to have to include this story. But I was 16 years old. I was in a jug band at the time with my good pals Pigpen and Jerry Garcia, and that a year later, or a little later that year, I guess, that band turned into the band The Grateful Dead. But at that point, we were playing jug band music, and I was an aspiring folkie. In the jug band, I played the jug, the washtub bass, and occasional guitar. Um, um, but anyway, I was sort of an aspiring blues guitarist, so I was a big fan of Lightning Hopkins, Poe Lightning,
Sure.
and and he was playing at a coffee house up in Berkeley. And so I figured I just had to go and see him. And I hitchhiked to Berkeley and slapped my money on the counter at the box office and said, I'd like a ticket, please. And they said they wanted to see some ID. And I assured them I was 18 years old, when in fact I was 16 and looked 13. And they said they stuck to their guns too. Well, we're gonna have to see some ID. And so that wasn't working for me. So I wasn't taking that for an answer though. And so I walked around to the back of the building and climbed up a drain pipe to get up to the top, and looked around up there, and lo and behold, there was a skylight up there. I looked in the skylight and I could see a guitar case in there, and okay, this has got to be the right place. And so I set about to quietly prying the skylight loose, and got it off so that I could slip through. And then I dropped Teenage Ninja style into what was the dressing room. And
Subtle like
what I
that.
couldn't see from the skylight was that the opening act was in there packing up his instrument. And he hears me quietly hit the ground and turns around and sees me, and just he lays into me, both barrels. Are you Mike? No, you're not Mike. You don't look like Mike. I'm waiting for a guy named Mike. He's a guy named Mike. He's coming to pick me up. He has a 2 or 3 year old Oldsmobile, and we were going to drive down to Santa Cruz. He has a friend down at Santa Cruz who's got a boat, and he says that he thinks his friend will take us out on that boat. Anyway, so it went on
It never
and
occurred to him that Mike might take the front door coming through the skylight.
And and it just he had me sort of pinned to the wall, and I figured out very quickly why they call him Ramblin Jack. And I was pretty well aware of the who he was, and I was at one point I was a little starstruck, but at the same time I wanted to get out and see Poe Lightning. It didn't look like that, but well, anyway, what finally happened was Mike, Jack's ride did finally arrive, and I snuck out and caught the end of Lightning Hopkins set. But that was one, and we've been pretty good friends ever since.
Wild. That's funny. Yeah, but you do whatever you can to get in those shows.
Right. Yeah.
If you'll bear with me, I have a kind of a funny one I think you might laugh at. Fast forward a bunch of years later, this was in like 2006. I was a big fan of the band Tool. I'm sure you've kind of heard of them. They're a heavier rock band. Anyway, they were super sold out. They were playing at the Paramount Theater. And I had asked all my friends in the industry, like, hey, I couldn't get tickets. They sold out in seconds. It was like $1,000 a ticket for the front row. Can you get me in? And I asked everybody, and everybody was like, yeah, that's just too much juice for me. There's no way I can pull it off. But I did talk to somebody who worked as a bartender, as an usher for the Paramount. And he's like, well, if you talk to this woman, Susan, maybe you could offer to, to volunteer. Maybe she'll let you do it. All I had to do is, come with a tuxedo and a flashlight at 5:30, and all was well. And so I called the woman. He gave me the number. She never responded. And as it turns out, I guess she was on vacation or whatever. So the day of the show comes up, I didn't hear anything back, and I just thought, well, he did tell me 5:30, tuxedo, flashlight. So I showed up at the Paramount Theater and walked right into what was the front of house meeting, and nobody noticed, that I just kind of slipped in. They're like, yeah, so as you might know about the Paramount, it's mostly like soul and R&B acts and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Definitely not on the list of things that they're used to, and it's a lot of mostly middle to older black folks that are working there. So the guy's like, I know nobody really wants to work the front right now, because it's this kind of a band, and this is right after they just got done saying like they're really strict about photography and smoking and all this stuff. And he's like, what if I could get a volunteer, to work the front? And nobody raised their hand. And so I'm in the back just going like, I'll do it, So I was like, yeah, you meet up with this guy. And then he takes me to the front. So I'm up there just losing my mind that I not only snuck into the show that was like the hardest ticket to get, but now I'm literally like 10 feet from the stage. Les Claypool comes up and I'm, seating him in, like, hey, Les, how you doing? Here's your seat. The show starts. It goes on. I'm watching the band because I'm kind of enthralled by it. People are smoking. People are taking photos and videos. I'm clearly not doing my job. About like 5 minutes into the first song, somebody comes up and taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, dude, I've been watching you. I'm Tool's head of security. You're making, you can't be doing this. Like, we're not paying you to watch my band. And I'm like, well. And anyway, so that happens. So I'm like, all right, I'll try. So I get back to it. I, scold some people for smoking and whatever. And then about like another 5 minutes later, somebody else taps me on the shoulder, and it was the guy running the meeting. And he's like, all right, man, first of all, I got to tell you, you have gigantic balls, which is why I'm not going to throw you out, but you are making me look horrible. So come with me right now, and I will let you watch the show from the soundboard, but don't ever do this again. That's like one of my favorite bands. Anyway.
You were the only fan that showed up in the tux.
Yeah, I worked for it.